Hello, welcome to the online course on youth employability and entrepreneurship, the role of digital economy. Congratulations for completing the introductory session. I hope you really enjoyed it. I welcome you to this exciting week that will be focusing on youth development in the SDGs and Agenda 2063. This is the week where we focus on Module 1. I'm available as the course director to guide you through this process. Feel free to contact me via email. Thank you and welcome on board. So for Module 1, we will be focusing on youth development in the SDGs and AU Agenda 2063 within this week. This session will explore AU youth development policies and programs that are aimed at ensuring that the continent benefits from its demographic dividend, and will also provide country-based definitions when it comes to young people and offer an overview of youth development policies and efforts that have taken place within the mandate of the SDGs. So at the end of this session, we would expect that learners would have an improved knowledge of youth development in the internal compacts to meet the SDGs and Agenda 2063. By way of introduction, from the African Union in 2019, the research shows that a youthful population can lead to increased savings, higher productivity and economy. As such, Africa must invest strategically and adequately in its human capital, especially on education, health, employment, and engagement of its youth. Article 2 of the African Youth Charter 2006 provides that every young person shall be entitled to the enjoyment of rights, freedoms, recognized and guaranteed in the Charter, irrespective of their race, ethnic group, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, fortune, birth, or other status. So by this article, it means that no young person shall be discriminated against. Across Africa, we have seen that the concept of youth has been defined to suit the social cultural context, the economic realities, and the political realities within the countries. So for Module 1, we will be looking at the age-based definitions of youth across Africa and the definition of youth by the UN, the World Bank, and other institutions. Youth and the Sustainable Development Goals would also be explored, as well as Youth and 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, Youth and Africa Agenda 2063, and the linkages between Agenda 2063 and the SDGs and how they relate to youth development. We will also explore AU-UN Development Framework on implementation of Agenda 2063 and Agenda 2030. Going forward, we will look at the United Nations System-Wide Action Plan on Youth, popularly known as Youth SWAP, and the Africa Youth and their relationship in terms of the work and the benefits for young people within the framework of Addis Ababa Action Agenda. So what you see is a reminder of the SDGs, what they mean, using the icons to also remember them easily so that it will be easier for us to make our interventions in our various organizations and countries. If we look at the youth and the SDGs, there are three key points we have to highlight. The first one is that the SDGs, popularly known as the Sustainable Development Goals, are the blueprints geared towards achieving a more sustainable future for all, and they were adopted by all member states of the United Nations in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. One interesting thing is that all the SDGs are critical to youth development. So let's meet the SDGs. Goal 1 addresses issues of poverty. Goal 2 talks about zero hunger. Goal 3 focuses on good health and well-being, while Goal 4 talks a lot about quality education, including inclusive education. Goal 5 promotes gender equality, while Goal 6 and 7 promotes clean water and sanitation and affordable and clean energy respectively. Goal 8 gives a lot of background on decent work and economic growth, while Goal 9 looks at industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Goal 10 encourages member states to find ways to reduce inequalities, while Goal 11 looks at sustainable cities and communities, also looking at the concept of safe cities. Goal 12 provides for responsible consumption and production, while Goal 13 encourages climate action across the globe. Goal 14 looks at life below water, and Goal 15 looks at life on land, as Goal 16 looks at peace, justice, and strong institutions. Goal 17 promotes partnerships for the goals. So you see that all these goals are relevant to youth development. We're looking now at youth within the context of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. As we already know, Agenda 2030 is a global framework and an ambitious plan of action that the United Nations adopted in 2015 to achieve three main aspects. The first being economic, the social, and of course the environmental dimensions in a balanced and integrated manner without leaving anyone behind. I underline this principle of leaving no one behind because this is very key in our work within the development sector and of course as policy makers. Agenda 2030 also includes a set of 17 SDGs with 169 targets and 232 indicators that must be achieved by 2030 for the world to say yes, that we are delivering on this. It therefore calls for the development and implementation of strong evidence-based youth policies and concrete actions geared towards sustainable youth development. This is pivotal in this online course because the module one will be looking at this some of these evidence-based youth policies so that you also check your countries and even the organizational policies to know whether they are youth friendly and the gaps and possibly recommend practical solutions to them that will ensure that the youth are encouraged to grow in a very sustainable manner. So here we are looking at Youth and Africa Agenda 2063. Agenda 2063, the Africa We Want, is a framework adopted by the 24th Ordinary Assembly of the African Union Assembly of Heads of States and Government in January 2015. One of the key things about this Africa Agenda 2063 as regards young people is that in its aspiration 6, Agenda 2063 established a framework that promotes a culture of inclusivity and development of women and the younger generation. Yeah, so we will also look at the youth-related policies, programs, and declarations across Africa. For instance, we will focus on African Youth Charter, the key components of African Youth Charter that are relevant to the course, the Plan of Action on Decade on Youth Empowerment and Development in Africa, the African Youth Decade 2009, to 2018 Plan of Action, the DPOA, for accelerating youth empowerment for sustainable development, the roadmap towards the implementation of the African Youth Charter. We will also look at African Plan of Action for Youth Empowerment, APAE 2019 to 2023, on the theme The Africa We Want, Building and Unleashing the Potential of Young People. This particular framework, APAE, is really very important, and I would enjoin learners to pay particular attention to APAE because it's still ongoing in terms of its implementation. Also, we explore the provisions of Malabo decision on the theme, accelerating youth empowerment for sustainable development. And finally, the AU UN Development Framework on implementation of Agenda 2063 and Agenda 2030. This framework is also very key because it's a joint effort by the African Union and the United Nations, and is a framework that actually helps to provide more insight on the linkages between the two frameworks and helps Africa to align with the SDGs as we move forward towards successfully implementing the SDGs by 2030. The African Union United Nations Development Framework on implementation of Africa Agenda 2063 and the 2030 Agenda was jointly developed and signed by the AU and the United Nations to strengthen coordination, optimize resource use and mobilization, as well as reduce multiplicity of efforts geared towards achieving Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063. So, to ensure that this is very effective, the framework stipulates conditions for cooperation between the United Nations and African Union that can help Africa to promote inclusive growth for its sustainable development and transformation. Known as the Youth Swap, United Nations System-Wide Action Plan on Youth was developed in 2013 by the Interagency Network on Youth Development with the aim to strengthen the capacity of countries to develop high-quality, inclusive education, learning and training policies and programs that promote youth development. All in its own, USWAP has five overarching goals related to the thematic areas of employment and entrepreneurship, protection of rights and civic engagement, political inclusion, education including comprehensive sexuality education and health. We explore this further in the course manual. Yeah, so when it comes to youth development in the SDGs, there are some case studies that we looked at, and these case studies are pulled out from the UN Youth Policy Toolbox that was developed and launched in 2017 by the UNECA, the UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, UNESCAP, and the UN Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia. The policy toolbox was developed to enhance information sharing, communication, and collaboration among policymakers and young people. So when you look at the right, the pictures you see, that gives you an idea of what the website looks like. It has the policymakers toolkit, and then there's also a space for youth engagement, and then the good practices. When you click on the good practices, you will be looking at three regions. The first one is Africa. You also see what is going on in Asia and the Pacific, and then, of course, the Western Asia. Now, for Africa, we looked at some of the case studies, also bearing in mind the language differences, the projects that cut across gender, that also encourage differences, the diversity from the various youth-led and youth-focused projects across Africa. So we will be looking at the Youth Farm project from Fresh and Young Brains Development Initiative and Alexian Consult based in Abuja, Nigeria. the Cameroon's National Support Program for Rural and Urban Youth, the Youth Development Fund of Government of Zimbabwe, the psychosocial support, technical and professional training of people with disabilities from Mozambique. Other case studies are on the link provided on the screen. And what we've done is to highlight these case studies to encourage you to also, in your assignment, to think of a youth-led or youth-focused initiative that can be part of the good practices. So once you submit your good practice, we will pull it together and I will submit it to the IDEP UNECA to upload in the good practices session for Africa so that the world will get to know what is going on with young people and also find ways to support them. So you'll be looking at both the success stories from these initiatives, the challenges they faced in terms of the strengths and weaknesses. We also explore the sustainability strategies in place and possibility for replication and any other advice that you may have. This will all be collated. Yeah, so for your further reading, it will be very important as you prepare for the quiz and then also to enrich your work in the field that you study AUUN framework on implementation of Agenda 2063 and Agenda 2030. The link is provided. The African Youth Decade, I mentioned, the African Union Plan of Action, the very important APAE. The GIZ also look at the policy brief by the African Union Commission and GIZ to also understand how the skills portal for youth operates and the UNECA's 2017 Toolbox that I mentioned. This will be like your guide through this. And so the next screen will show you what the toolbox looks like. And we expect that you use this toolbox in answering the good practice initiatives that are coming from you. So this is what the template looks like. So for each heading, ensure that you make one paragraph where you also highlight gender concerns or any other key thing that you feel addresses the core needs and aspirations of young people. Mention the name of the country where the project is domiciled, the title of the project in focus, and then within 100 words, give a context to the project, looking at the socio-economic and demographic context, such as the low or high labor force participation rate, level of skills developed, unemployment rate, and every other point that you feel is relevant to mention. Also look at the implementation of the program initiative using 150 words maximum. And in this case, you look at the background, you look at the extent of coverage, the objective, the funding, what is the source of funding, and what is the level of funding they've been able to receive. This will also help us in understanding how they are able to make impact with what they have received. And in 100 words, highlight the key challenges they face, the results that have been achieved so far, and what are their plans to move forward, and how to ensure sustainability and replicability of this. Now, it would be good to highlight the references. If they have links to their website, it would be good to put it there. And then any other reference point that you may have, at least maximum of 3 references is good for this. So you will use this format in the assignment, and then you will send it to my email as part of the assignment for module. Now, so this is the assignment. It is a case study that you are to develop using the UN Youth Policy Toolbox Good Practice Template and learning from the knowledge you've gained so far from studying Module 1. You are to develop a case study of an outstanding youth-led or youth-focused initiative in your country. if it's possible, it will be good to highlight more of the youth-led initiative. Let's see what the young people are themselves doing under the concept of leave no youths behind. And the points you need to note are one, that you need to insert an action picture of the youth initiative. And if they have a website, provide a link. If they don't have a website, but they are on any of the social media platforms, provide a link for them. And then submit the one-page case study using the format of the UN Youth Policy Toolbox Good Practice template within 48 hours of studying Module 1. Now, the second aspect of the assignment will be for you to participate actively in the group discussions. For all the modules, you are expected to contribute your ideas, your recommendations on the e-panel that UN has created for the discussions. So for Module 1, we'll be answering two questions. What are the notable gaps in the implementation of Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063 that are in favor of young people? What are the recommended actions? Please post your comments on the online discussion panel because I will be pulling all the materials from there and they will form part of the resource materials and key deliverables from this course that will also help for actions taken by various organizations. Yeah, I believe at this point you have really gone through module 1 and you're ready to take the end of module quiz. Just to remind you of some of the key points that you have studied and to prepare you for the final exam. Yeah, so for module 1 we have 5 questions which I invite you to test your knowledge on, and then at the end of the day look at the answers to know the ones you didn't get right and learn from it. And then if you're able to get everything, that is excellent. So you're looking at questions 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And these questions cut across the various framework that we understudied in module 1. And also I will enjoin you to take the further reading part seriously and then also the lecture note because it will provide more insight on what you need to know when it comes to youth policies across Africa going on. Yes. So how was the quiz? Did you get all the questions correctly? Are your answers correct? If yes, yay, congratulations. If no, nope, not a problem. Just try to see what you can do to learn more. And then it's not just to pass the quiz that is important. What is important is that you are able to learn and adapt what you have learned to your work. I believe that you've enjoyed module 1 and I want to say congratulations for completing module 1 and now invite you to study the course lecture notes that is with you as we prepare to move to module 2. See you next week. Thank you.